You ever wonder why some fighters just vanish after a single loss? One day they're at the top, fans are chanting their name, everyone's watching, and the next? Silence, like they never existed. And this isn't just bad luck. There's something deeper, something almost cruel, hiding behind the scenes in MMA. The truth is, the world of MMA isn't just brutal physically, it's mentally, emotionally, and socially unforgiving. Imagine pouring years of your life into training, sacrifices, pain, and discipline, all to shine on one stage. Then in a blink, it's gone. One loss can shatter more than a record. It can shake a fighter's identity, confidence, and purpose. Fighters are more than athletes. They're brands, sponsors, promotions, fans. They all thrive on the idea of a winner. Lose once and suddenly you're not marketable. Social media engagement drops, sponsorship deals vanish, fight offers slow to nothing. A single loss can erase the visibility and hype that once surrounded you. Then there's the mental toll. Losing isn't just a scoreboard thing, it hits deep. Anxiety, depression, self-doubt, it creeps in quietly but mercilessly. Some fighters can't cope, their confidence crumbles and they withdraw. Publicly, it may look like a career choice, but behind closed doors, it's often a struggle with identity and worth. The industry itself is ruthless. Promotions are hungry for rising stars, the next must-see fighter. If you stumble, even slightly, they move on. There's no room for recovery in the spotlight. The moment you falter, another eager fighter steps in to take your place. It's a conveyor belt of ambition and spectacle, where one loss can feel like being erased. But here's the part most people won't tell you. Some fighters disappear because they choose to. After a brutal loss, the lifestyle, the travel, the training, the pressure suddenly feels unbearable. They step back, retreat, and sometimes they vanish from public view entirely. It's not always permanent, but to fans it looks like they've simply evaporated. And let's not forget the shame culture in combat sports. The stigma of losing can feel crushing. Fighters often internalize the loss as personal failure, not just professional. Friends, family, coaches, they all expect resilience, toughness, and always fighting mentality. But when a fighter breaks, even a little, they face judgment, gossip, and the silent whisper of not enough. For some, the easiest option is disappearance. There's also the financial pressure. MMA isn't a guaranteed paycheck. Losing can mean months of no income, fights delayed or cancelled, bills piling up. The cost of staying in the sport, mentally, physically, financially, suddenly outweighs the perceived benefit. Many quietly exit, hoping the world forgets so they can regroup without shame or scrutiny. Sometimes, a loss exposes hidden truths that fighters didn't want to face. Maybe their body is breaking down, maybe they're not as skilled as they thought, or maybe the mental battle was already tipping against them. MMA is a mirror that doesn't lie. One defeat can reflect everything a fighter was avoiding seeing about themselves. And here's the darkest part. Some disappear because the industry doesn't forgive mistakes. Fans move on. Hype shifts. The spotlight is stolen by the next big thing. Even champions who once dominated can vanish overnight, not because they're done, but because the machinery of MMA is relentless and unforgiving. The system feeds on the new, and there's no space for anyone who stumbles. So why do fighters disappear after one loss? Because losing is more than losing. It's losing your brand, your confidence, your financial stability, your identity, and sometimes even your sense of purpose. It's the perfect storm of personal, mental, and professional collapse, all magnified by a culture that worships victory and punishes failure. And the sad truth? Most of the world doesn't notice. Fans forget, promotions move on, social media scrolls past. What remains is a quiet, sometimes tragic story of a fighter who once had it all, only to vanish after one defining moment. Disappearing isn't always permanent. Some come back stronger, reinvent themselves, or find peace outside the cage. But the initial shock of that vanishing act, it's a reminder of just how fragile glory can be. One fight can change everything, not just in the ring, but in life. In the end, the disappearance of fighters after a single loss is a mix of brutal industry rules, mental collapse, financial realities, and personal choice. It's raw, it's painful, and it's often hidden from view. But if you look closely, listen closely, you'll see the patterns, the warning signs, and the heartbreak behind the silence. One loss can feel like the end, but sometimes it's just the beginning of a completely different story. And yet, even with all that, Some fighters don't come back. They stay hidden, not because they can't, but because the fear of facing the world again, of stepping into that cage, of confronting the whispers of failure, it's too much. Their careers vanish, their names fade, and fans are left wondering, where did they go? It's like they were erased. But it's not magic or mystery. It's the harsh truth of a sport that doesn't forgive mistakes and a world that celebrates winners while quietly discarding the fallen. Some fighters try to fight back in secret. They train alone, rebuild their bodies, retrain their minds, but the momentum they lost is almost impossible to regain. Every promotion wants the next big thing, not a comeback story from someone who stumbled once. The media rarely remembers them. Fans have moved on. That one loss, which may have been a single mistake, becomes a label that sticks. And for many, that label is the reason they never step back into the limelight. There's also the social pressure. Teammates, coaches, gyms, they all have expectations. Losing creates tension, disappointment, and sometimes resentment. A fighter might feel isolated, even in a supportive team. That isolation feeds the decision to disappear, to retreat into privacy, to let the world assume they've quit. And let's be honest, some disappear because they're afraid. Fear of another failure, fear of judgment, fear of the pain, physical, mental, emotional, of fighting again. That fear can be paralyzing. It can make someone vanish quietly, without explanation, leaving fans and friends confused, wondering if they'll ever see them again. It's not always a permanent goodbye. Some fighters come back years later, reinvented, stronger, hungrier. But the truth is, the first disappearance is almost always painful and dramatic. The first loss is rarely just a number on a record. It's a moment that tests everything: identity, confidence, purpose, and mental strength. And when that test feels too heavy, the easiest choice is to step away, to disappear, to vanish from a world that doesn't forgive mistakes. So next time you see a fighter disappear after a loss, don't just shrug and move on. Remember, behind the silence is a storm of mental battles, financial pressures, brutal industry standards, and personal choices. One fight changed everything. And in the harsh world of MMA, that's enough to make someone vanish completely, leaving only whispers, memories, and the haunting question of what could have been. And in that silence, there's a lesson for everyone, fighter or fan. Glory is fragile. Confidence can crumble in an instant. Careers can end with a single defeat. And sometimes, disappearing isn't about weakness. It's about survival, about protecting yourself from a world that can be as unforgiving as it is thrilling. The cage doesn't just test strength, it tests the soul. And for some, one loss is enough to make them walk away, quietly, completely, and forever changed. این متن حدود 2 برابر طول نسخه والا میتونه راحت به حدود 10,000 حرف نزدیک بشه. اگر بخوای میتونم نسخه نهایی دقیقاً 10,000 حرفی با ریتم و شوک بیشتر و جملات وایرال محور آماده کنم. میخوای همین کارو کنم.